These are the assembly instructions for my hinged basketball. All these pieces represent half of my basketball. I'm just folding down on all the score lines for all the pieces. So for my O pieces, I'm just folding down, just pinching down on those score lines. And if you happen to fold into the tab, that's fine. It's not a big deal. So just make sure that you fold down on all the score lines. And you do that for all 10 of these. And then for my decagon piece, you want to just fold down on all the tabs that are around the perimeter. So this piece that doesn't have any markings on it except score lines, I'm just folding down on all the score lines. And there's one very thin triangle here. So I'm using my Cricut scraper tool and I'm just folding down on that score line and then carefully folding down on the remainder of the score lines. So with some of them you just have to pinch them until they meet another score line. And for others, you just go right across the shape, so you just fold down. So while I have my piece in hand, I'm just putting glue on that triangular piece. So from the score line to the edge. And then I'm tucking it under, gluing the cut edge of the piece on my left right to the score line of my tab on my right, like so. And it already creates a little bit of a dome. And then I have my X pieces, so the ones that have that X tab on the bottom may also have that triangular tab on the side. And with it, I'm just folding down on all the score lines just like I did for the other pieces. And again, you're just folding down, you're just pinching your score line until you reach another score line. And then you want to put glue on that triangular piece just like you did for the last one. And then tuck the triangle underneath, and then just glue the cut edge of the piece on your right to the score line of your tab. I'm going to fold down on the remaining score lines for my X pieces and for my O pieces, and then we'll start assembling. So now that I have folded down on all my pieces, I'm taking my decagon shape that has all the tabs on the perimeter, and I'm going to start with one of the tabs that has a little O on it. I'm putting glue all over that tab, and then I'm taking one of those pieces with the two O's on the tabs. I'm just gluing the top of it right to the score line on the top of my tab. The cut edge of this piece follows along the score line. The top of this V that's on my O piece hits right at the corners of my tab. So next I'm going to put glue on the next tab. It doesn't have any shapes drawn on it. I'm going to take one of my X pieces, and I want the tab with the X on it to be towards the bottom and towards the right. As you hold it in that position, I'm gluing my tab to that top triangular shape. And then I'm going to go back to my O piece. I'm putting glue all over that tab with the O drawn on it. I'm just tucking it under that X shape that I've just glued in. I want the cut edge of this triangle to be right against the score line of my tab. I'm rotating my shape past the first X piece that I've glued in, and I have my O tab and I have another O piece. I'm just gluing my next O piece into place, and again the top of that larger triangle is right against the score line of my tab. So next I'm going to put glue on the tab that's on the left hand side of my O piece, and I'm just gluing it to the X piece that I had just previously glued in. I want the cut edge of this triangle to be right against the score line of that tab. I'm rotating my shape again. I'm putting glue on this tab. I've just put in an O piece, so I'm putting in an X piece. I want that X tab to be towards the bottom and towards the right. Just like I did previously, I'm gluing that top of that larger triangle to the tab. And then I'm going back to my O piece and putting glue on the tab of my O piece. I'm gluing my X piece to my O tab. Next one is an O piece. I'm putting glue all over the tab. So I've got that larger triangle pointing downwards, and I'm gluing the top of the triangle. I'm going to go back to my O tab, and I'm tucking it under that X piece and just gluing that in. So now I've got a tab with nothing on it, so that's for an X piece. I'm going to put glue all over the tab. And again, I'm holding my X piece so that the X is to the right and downwards. And then I'm gluing my piece in place. I'm just alternating these two pieces and gluing them in. I'm putting glue on that O tab and sneaking it under my X piece and gluing the cut edge of my X piece to my O tab. So next piece is an O piece. So I'm just repeating the same steps. Next piece is an X piece. Gluing down the tab on the left. And then the last one, X tab, is my last piece for the perimeter. So I'm gluing the tab on the left of it, as I've been doing all along. But this time I'm also closing the shape in by gluing in the tab that's on the right as well. So now I'm looking at the underside of it. So I'm just randomly choosing one of the X tabs. I'm putting glue all over it. Then I'm taking one of my O pieces. So you have the tabs on each side and you have that larger triangle. I'm just gluing the top of the triangle right against the score line of my X tab. And then I'm going to put glue on the O tab that I've just glued in, the one that's at the top. And I'm going to tuck it under and I'm going to glue it to the panel that's adjacent. And so next I'm going to move to the X tab. I'm going to be doing the same thing, putting glue all over the tab, and I'm taking my O piece, making sure that I'm gluing the top of my O piece to my X tab. I'm putting glue on the top O tab, tucking it underneath, and then gluing it to the panel beside it. Glue on the next X tab, and the exact same process. So glue over my X tab, and I'm just gluing it in. Last one. So now I'm left with 5 O tabs that are exactly the shape of my remaining piece. So I'm just going to choose one of my O tabs. It doesn't matter which one. I'm putting glue on it. I've got the point in the center, and then I have a triangle. I'm just gluing that triangle to my tab. And then I have my 4 other O tabs. I'm going in there carefully and putting glue on all 4 of those tabs. And then I'm just pressing them in place. So I have my hand on the inside and I'm applying pressure from both sides just to make sure that my piece is right against the score line of all 5 of those tabs. And if you want, you can go in with your bone folder and just apply a little bit more pressure, make sure that glue takes. So now that it's all assembled, I'm going to flip it over, and I have these lines. So they're going to guide me to position the black lines on my basketball. So I have a straight edge and I have one right in the middle of it. I'm positioning my vinyl so that it's centered over the line. And then I'm wrapping my vinyl so that it hits the peak. So I want it in as straight as possible so that it hits the peak. It's all the way down again on the other side. And all being well, it should be centered over the line on the other side, like so. And then you can go in from the inside and just make sure that that vinyl is good and stuck. And then I have another straight piece. The 2 that I've already glued down are on the left and the right. So I'm going to start from the one at the top, and I'm centering my vinyl over that line at the top. And then I'm wrapping it around the same way, and again it has to go as straight as possible and hit the peak. Bring it down on the other side. It's centered over the line that's across. So now I have my curved piece of vinyl, and I'm placing the top of my curve just at the intersection of one of my cross pieces, like so. The top of my curve intersects the middle of the line right at the bottom of that triangle, and the ends are centered over the lines that are on my base, like so. I'm rotating my piece and doing the exact same thing. So if you're having problems finding the peak, just very carefully fold it in half on the non-sticky side. So this would be the peak. You just want to put that just above the point and then center the ends over the pen marks. They're about the same distance at the top, and all four of them hit the center lines that are on the base. So that's half of my ball assembled. The second half goes together exactly the same way. So I've just completed my second half of my ball, and I've put the vinyl stripes on both of them. So next I'm going to take my hinge piece. It has a score line in the center, and I'm just folding down on that score line. You have your straight strips of vinyl and a cross, and then you have your two curved ones, and as you proceed to the second half, the curved one ends up in like a U formation. So now I have to decide where I want to put my hinge. I've got them in the position that I want to adhere them. On this side of my decagon, my vinyl strip is exactly in the center, so that's where I want to put my hinge piece. I'm putting glue on half of my hinge piece, so from the score line to the edge, and then I'm placing it so that scored edge is corner to corner with the side of my decagon, like so. And then I'm putting glue on the second half. I'm grabbing the top half of my ball, and I'm gluing my hinge piece on a panel that also has that vinyl strip in the center of the panel. I'm just closing it, making sure that it closes nicely. Then I'm opening it, applying a little bit of pressure to make sure that that glue takes. And I have these frame pieces, so I'm just putting glue on them and just gluing them down to each half of my ball. So I made a little stand for my ball. So I'm just folding down on all the score lines for the two pieces that are part of the stand. So next I'm putting glue on the tab that's on the side. Then I'm putting glue on the tab that's at the other end and forming a ring. And then I'm putting glue on all 10 of the flaps and folding them into the inside of my ring. So then my basketball just fits nicely on the ring that I've created as a holder. So while I was at it, I decided to make a baseball version. And for this version, the only thing that's different is the vinyl lines that you're putting on the ball itself. So for my vinyl, it starts at the back, the triangle that's at the back, and I wrapped it around as evenly as I possibly could until the two triangles that flank the central triangle. So I have the larger triangle here, and then I have two triangles on each side, and my vinyl just plunges into the center. And it does that on both sides so that the vinyl meets at that point. And then I hinged it at the back.